change always equals resistance. It's unavoidable.
We tend to want to do things the way we've always done it. What we had to do was educate our staff on how the space was going to look different, operate different, but the benefits of that difference.
Making the time to make sure that everyone who has buy-in has their chance to give it, whether it's the board or the last, person in a seat.
Welcome to Constructing the Carolinas, brought to you by Barnhill, the podcast where we explore the people, partnerships, and projects shaping communities across the Carolinas. I'm your host, Jed Byrne, Director of Business Development at Barnhill, and I'm glad you're here. Hello and welcome to the Constructing the Carolinas podcast. My name is Jed Byrne and I'm excited to, introduce myself to everybody as the new host of the podcast. This is our first episode back, and one of the things that I've always enjoyed about this podcast is the fact that we just get to share fantastic stories about projects and people and places and spaces, sometimes the challenges that communities are dealing with and how they handle them. And so it's my pleasure and privilege to get to be the one to bring those stories to you. And today we're actually on location here at the Coastal Credit Union headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina, with two people who are very familiar with the project. So we've got Brooke Funkhouser with Ratio, and we've got TJ Wyman with Coastal Credit Union. Brooke, maybe we'll start with you. If you could tell us a little bit about what you do at Ratio and just a smidgen of how you think space and space choices can impact employees.
I am an interior designer and architect at Ratio, primarily working in workplace, but also work across a lot of our teams to encourage asking further, what can we do? That's a sort of high level. Since we have all learned to work remotely and in different ways and from wherever, and kind of use that to our benefit to balance work and life, I think space at the office is now giving people even more choice and variety than ever before as a way to compete with that comfort level that we got at home, because we all find certain things that are just better done together. And so whatever that is for you, you're going to find a place to do that better here with your colleagues.
TJ, what about you? Tell us a little bit about what you do at Coastal and how you see space impacting employees.
Yeah, so I'm the Chief Digital Officer here at Coastal, and I know that may sound odd since we're talking about facilities and space, but one of the other things that I do here at Coastal is I oversee all of our facilities. Yeah. And I had the joy of obviously working on this project that we are in today. I think for us, space is really about collaboration. We started this journey during the end of COVID, and I think one of the things that we're missing for Coastal, and I think probably true for a lot of companies, is that collaboration. Like Brooke said, the hybrid work's here to stay, but it's really about how do we enable our employees to collaborate, and for us, it's around collaboration to then serve our members.
Very cool. And we'll touch on members here in a second. And I think what I heard a lot of from you, Brooke, was curiosity. This is kind of alliteration, and then collaboration with you, TJ. And again, for those who have not been in this space before, we're in a bit of a unique setup in that not only is this corporate headquarters and office, but you guys actually also operate out of this space and welcome customers into the building.
We do. We have a branch on the corner over here. It's one of 17 of our branches that we have. It's one of the more popular branches as well. So it's been great to allow our members to access a state-of-the-art facility, but it's also where we call home as well for all of our back office employees.
And so when you guys were designing this space, how did you take that customer angle into account? Again, how did you want this space to present or impact customers, not just employees and team members?
Yeah, so for us, although we are a credit union, we're a not-for-profit organization, we still have to market, we still have to look presentable to our members, be an attractive place to come to. Our previous branch had our members and our employees coming into the same entranceway, and so through Brooke's design, we shifted that over to the corner of this building, but still gave a state-of-the-art look to the facility. and allow our members full access to the facility as well. And we added an additional drive-through, which gave our member another benefit that they didn't have before we did this renovation.
As the process unfolded to include recladding the building and adding this great exterior space, there was an opportunity to open up visually the look of the building to the outside and the neighborhood. And that was meant to be a signal to the membership that we are approachable, we're your best partner for your financial life. And while fitting in with the neighborhood and having a nice new suit, it also kind of signaled sort of that casual and warm and inviting attitude.
Good. Well, let's talk about that new suit in the process. And so again, I think for those maybe not familiar with the building and the project, this was a complete redo of the inside of the building, a complete redo of the outside of the building. So Brooke, maybe both specifically and in general about this project and kind of the market at large, when you're talking with clients, how do you work through that process of, people usually have options, right? So it's, hey, do we want to renovate our space? Do we want to move to new space? Do we want to build new space? If we're going to renovate, is it the interior? Is it the outside? There's all these different options. So how do you think about or walk clients through that whole process when there's so many different choices to make?
I think there are just as many options as there are variables of what is supporting those options. And so I think in this case and in some others, the initial ask was to renovate a couple floors, but the complexity of being mid-pandemic and uncertainty of how people were going to work in the future, but still needing to move a very permanent thing forward, I think led to creating flexibility, but also the thought of connecting everyone. There were some tenants in the middle of the building, and so that really disrupted that idea. And that, I think, wasn't necessarily front of mind when you all came to us, but it became, as we talked about what was important to them, became clear that that would be a useful thing to do. So the space that we're sitting in used to be a single story with a floor over us. And so we removed floor space, structure, and that gave way to this very open and, well, at lunchtime maybe more dynamic than right now, but space for people to meet and collaborate in sort of a more open setting.
TJ, what about you? How did you guys think about, again, it seemed like you had a lot of options. Obviously you had goals and criteria, but how did you guys think about that whole process of what to do and how to do it? And maybe how would you advise others to think about that process as well?
So, we started this journey, we own the property across the street over there, and March of COVID, we were about to break ground on a 15-story building. And I think that drove COVID, and the sending everybody home drove our pauseness. We stopped that construction. Like Brooke said, we started the process saying, okay, we got to do something. Not sure if we need a 15-story building. We own this 6-story building, and so what do we do? And it started with, well, it's in a lot of pieces. It was, when we purchased it, it had a lot of tenants, so it was very hodgepodgey like space. Nothing open like you're seeing today. And so it started as an interior redo. And as we got into the project, and probably frustrating for Ratio and their team is the project grew as we understood more opportunity. And then we got to the point where we knew that we were going to be inviting our staff back, and the interior is important, which it definitely is, but so is the exterior. And so we had no outdoor space. The building wasn't very attractive. And so there's something about when you drive in as an employee being very proud and excited about the building from the exterior. And so we ended up expanding the scope of the project through the design phase and decided, hey, we just need to just do this, bite the bullet and do all 6 floors. And I'm really glad that we did. So if I were to give another company advice, is like, 1, take your time. 2, hire a great architect firm like Ratio to educate you. Because like for us, and I would think this is true for a lot of companies, we're a credit union. I know nothing about construction. I learned more than I care to learn in the 3 years of this project. and I'll never use it again. But I think, hiring the right people to educate you on what's important, and then listening to them. And then, if you're going to do something, you just need to do it right. And so it was a big disruption for us for a number of years, but the end result is well worth it.
Brooke, how did you think about kind of weaving the interior and exterior and the kind of that neighborhood connectivity together, if that's the right way to explore it?
Well, the concept of getting people outdoors quickly was definitely something on our minds in 2021, just for psychological safety and clean air, but also just giving people choice and variety. But what we also learned in the design process was that there was the exchange development coming across the street, which was not there at the time. And so that gave Coastal the opportunity to bridge over to, more of a crosswalk to get to the amenities being provided on that site and provide a little less in their building and make more financial room for the other things that they're providing. So don't have to provide a fitness center or a full cafe.
Right. I mean, again, that's, I think, one of the benefits of I don't know if we can call this an urban environment, but it's fairly urban, right? Because you've got the walkability, you've got amenities, and you've got adjacency that allows you to, again, if you didn't have that, if you're on an island, you would either have to decide to go without amenities or include that in the building. And especially in an existing structure, you've only got so much square footage to play with. I mean, similar with taking this floor space out, right? Like, yes, it obviously makes this space more open and beautiful and welcoming, but you've got to deal with the fact that now you've lost potentially some space that could be used for something else. So there's the financial costs and opportunity costs. And I don't know, maybe TJ, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that there's always a clear-cut answer for like, yes, that's definitely the best idea, or no, there's a bit of risk to that.
No, we have 600 employees, so square footage is important to us, and we're growing rapidly, so we know where we're going to be in the next 10 to 15 years, and obviously during this project, that's what we're building for. So we had to think strategically about all the square footage, right? You take away something here, how do you get it back? And I think getting access to what's going on St. Albans Drive and the exchange across the street allowed us to free up some space to do different things where we wouldn't have to put a exercise room or something of that nature. We were able to get rid of showers and locker rooms and all that kind of stuff that we could free up for other stuff.
Yeah. And earlier you mentioned taking your time and the fact that this was, the first commercial construction project of this scale, certainly, that you've gone through. What other, I guess back to the advice questions, like what other parts of the process do you think may be frequently overlooked, right? Because again, if you say take your time, well, how much time is it going to take? So what other things might people overlook in this process as they go through it?
I think for us, it was around budget and time frame. There's things, and especially the time frame piece of it, and I guess true to the budget piece as well. There's things out of everyone's control, whether it's permits or whatnot, weather. We started this project and we thought it was going to be 18 to 24 month project. It extended well beyond that. A lot of stuff out of everyone's control. So understanding that piece of it, I think, is important. And then you start getting into design aspects of things, and a lot of your wants and desires come into play, and then you just got to balance that with what you can afford and the budget is allocated for.
What about challenges, Brooke? So we talked about costs and pricing challenges. We talked about time challenges. What are some other challenges that are often faced on, again, just any type of workplace change project?
I think change always equals resistance. So that is a big one, and it's unavoidable. And you can do things throughout the process to include employees, include department leaders, making the time to make sure that everyone who has buy-in has their chance to give it, whether it's the board or the last person in a seat. And I think Coastal did a great job with the support, actually, of Steelcase and change management, but to form internal cheerleaders that throughout the construction process would take folks through a few at a time and explain how we were going to use the new space before they moved into it, and pointing out the features that they all asked for a long time ago. Like, remember, this is what you wanted, before they moved in, and it felt so jarring as a difference.
Yeah. I like that word, change, and I think that's the quote of the day: change equals resistance. TJ, on the change front, looking back kind of to the beginning of the project, what change or changes do you think have been made that had the biggest impact?
One of the similarities to this project to a credit union project is we tend to want to do things the way we've always done it. And so what we had to do was educate our staff on how the space was going to look different, operate different, but the benefits of that difference. People get used to their routines, used to their spaces. So for us, it was, we went from dedicated, whether it was offices or cubicles for employees, to now it's hoteling, and depending on the amount of time you're here, do you have an assigned office or do you have an assigned cubicle? And so that was a big challenge for us to overcome with a lot of our staff, and we're getting there today. So it's exciting to see that. The openness of the space. Again, we were very closed in. Everyone had their own corner of the building, and now opening that up where there's a lot more ability to collaborate and stuff like that. So I think that's been a positive for us. But at the same time, Brooke mentioned the change management from Steelcase. They told us like 20% of your employees are going to believe in what you're doing and go along and be 100% behind it. 60% are going to do whatever you tell them to do. And then there's the 20% that's going to just fight the whole system. And so what we had to do is try to focus on that 80% that's either going to come along or be okay with it, and make decisions based on that. So not making individual department decisions was a key for us.
Brooke, you mentioned earlier, I think, kind of in this decision process, making sure you have the right people at the table. So who do you think are the people that need to be at the table when making these decisions and having these conversations?
I think having a core group of leaders in the organization that can be both forward-looking and visionary, but also responsible to sort of the financial stewardship of the project as a harmony, and not just sort of one-sided, is important regardless of the size of the project. You can get really far down the road on a project and have possibly the key person that's going to squash it come along and do that. And so that's really important. Or if there's a governing body like a board that has to make a final call.
Again, thinking with my contractor hat on, I think a strong team is one that also is able to have those conversations and communications and know who those decision makers are. Because again, it's important for you guys to have strong conversations and buy-in and make sure who needs to be informed or re-informed or informed a third time, just to make sure that we're kind of over-communicating. But I also think that's true for everybody else involved in the project, because again, there's a lot of moving pieces, there's a lot of complexity, and change is hard, and people like what they like, and change is scary. Seemingly, this has been a very successful project. I think it was for the Barnhill team, and I think it has been for you. But how do you guys at Coastal think about or measure, what were your kind of metrics for success, or was it successful? And if it was, what makes it a success to you guys?
I think first and foremost for us, is our board happy? And we were extremely lucky. Our board was very supportive of this project. Coastal's never taken on a project of this size or magnitude. And we've got a tremendous board that supported it, came along for the ride, learned as much as probably I did. I did monthly updates in our board meetings for them. And we had to pivot through the process, and they were willing to do that pivoting, which I think aided in this project being successful. So I think that's got to be key, at least for an organization like us. Having that support and allowing us to do that is tremendously valuable. And I think the other thing, and I don't know if we pointed it out yet, but for this project, one of the other major hurdles that we really haven't talked about is we worked in this building while it was being constructed. And I think that goes to not only Ratio, but also Barnhill. You know, I don't know how they did it. I'm not sure how we did it as employees. But for the better part of 2 years, every day we showed up here, we were either going through a different entrance. Yeah. Half the building was blown out with no windows. You know, and so, you know, I can't thank our staff, Barnhill, enough that got us through that. Yeah. Now, I will say I probably wouldn't do that again. So if I could give some advice to another organization, I'm not sure Barnhill would do it again either.
Don't stay in the building.
Yeah. If you can move out, move out. I think that's key. But I will say, you know, if you have to make that decision, we got through it. Yeah. And so, but that's around the partnership that you build with the people you're doing the business with. And so we got really lucky that we chose great partners to work with, and they got us through those hard times. And there was definitely some hard times.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, no construction project, and certainly one of this magnitude, is ever smooth sailing all the time. And I do think a big piece of that is just communication and over communication, really, to make sure everybody knows what's coming, what to be, because you don't want surprises, and sometimes there are going to be some. But again, when you're showing up to work and you know you're going to your desk, you expect to go through the front door. And if the front door isn't there, or if currently, you know, the windows are out, you're going to have to do something different. But knowing what to do, and for us, helping plan that, but also keeping everybody safe while it's happening is important. Brooke, what about you? Looking forward, and again, I mean, I think it's tough to predict the future, but what do you see kind of workplace trends-wise, or future of workplace? What do you see maybe is going to be potentially different? What do you think is going to be the same? But just kind of what are you seeing? What's your crystal ball telling you about the future? And we're going to come back in 5 years and we're going to check all of this and you're going to get graded. So this has to be right.
I mean, I think for the foreseeable future, I feel like I'm repeating or, you know, beating the drum of choice and variety, but that is a really big deal as we continue to see office space purchases, you know, be a little slower than on the uptick. They are on the uptick, but a little slower than we'd like, and that still revolves around uncertainty in the economy and the world. So, you know, I think the planning process for those jumping into that is still also uncertain. So you can navigate that by being open-minded about how you treat accommodating people. We did that in this building because, you know, there was a growth expectation and then there was a response of how often people are in the office, but that can vary from person to person even when you have a policy. So the math didn't quite perfectly suggest an outcome. So when you have that, you can create spaces where people can not be in a traditional desk all the time, but can still be happy and can still do their work depending on what their need is. And so I guess that's a long-winded answer to say the options for choice and variety for an individual user also create a benefit for the folks looking to provide new space, so the leaders of organizations.
And then DJ, for you, again, maybe on the design side, if you've got thoughts on design, but I was thinking more on the personnel and the people side of this, and frankly, the technology side. And I know you guys have some unique technology, you know, where you can have customer service calls to an ATM, and you've got a team of people here who will respond. So how do you see technology and work kind of going into the future?
I think it's back to the hybrid piece of it, right? So how do you make it where staff can do some of their work from home and then some of their work inside here, and the technology doesn't interrupt that? For us, it's another piece that I would tell people that are going through a change like this is like, you know, we probably didn't put enough emphasis in planning into our technology piece of things. I think we thought that was the piece we knew, right? And I think what we learned from this is we probably didn't know it in this type of space. Things we didn't experience over the last 20 years in our old building, we're now experiencing here. And so those were learning experiences for us. And just making sure that when a staff member plugs in whatever device they're for us, whatever their device they're using to do stuff for our members, that it works whether it's at their home office or they work here. Is key. And so making sure you put, I think, more planning and emphasis around how does that piece all work. We're getting there today, but day one when we open these doors, I think that was a hurdle for us, for some of our employees, is that they spent more time trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to work at this workstation because it's not working like I worked at home. Because I do believe that the work from home or the hybrid work isn't going away, because there's a lot of advantages that gives to individuals and families and so forth that we've been able to take advantage of. So, and then, giving them to Brooke's point, is like this space that we're sitting in right now today is I sometimes have my VPs, we have our monthly meeting at this table, and it's allowing people to work differently with technology. So, we've opened up, we have Wi-Fi through this whole building. But we've had to train our managers and vice presidents to be comfortable with their staff not sitting at a desk, right? We've built this beautiful building that's got a lot of different ways to work, and so you gotta be able to trust your employees and allow them to utilize the space that we built for them, and that's been an ongoing learning process for us. We're not 100% there, but we're getting better at it.
Very cool. And then I think kind of as we bring this to a close, I'd love to hear from both of you. If you're working on a project, or you've got a big project coming up, what's one piece of advice that you would give to folks on how to work best with a team?
I don't know if this is the best answer, but it is one. I will just say it takes a village, I think, on both sides of the table. The design firm's likely going to be working with a series of consultants, and we may not know what consultants we need at the outset. Like we brought on a technology consultant for the project for some of the things that you were describing, because we knew that wasn't something we had. But I think it all coming back to the time piece, the village coming from, you may think that all we just need to do is sit down with you and like sketch some things out, right? But you do need the input from the people that are going to use the building so you don't get it wrong. And so that sort of takes time. And so just sort of treating it as such and being patient with that village to kind of come around to things.
I think trust the people that you hire. I think, and make sure you're hiring the right people that you can work with. For a project of this size, it's. I didn't give it enough appreciation for how long our Brooke and my relationship was going to last through the project, and then I'm enjoying it now that we're done the project.
All the way to today.
And maybe she is as well. But like, it's for us, it was 3 years, right? And so, sometimes you don't even work with some of your employees for 3 years. So making sure that you can trust the people that you've hired, and then establish the rapport with them, and then trust their input on what you're giving. The rapport is, I think, really important, because there was times through this project that I'm sure Brooke wanted to fire me as a client, and vice versa. But we established a rapport that we could work through those things and get over them, because we know the project was going in the right direction. It's a long, obviously a project of this size, this is not just a regular renovation. And so the journey and how long that journey took, you've got to get along with the people you're working with.
Good. I like it. Well, Brooke, TJ, thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. And TJ, thank you for sharing your work home with us. And then for everybody listening or watching, thank you for joining Constructing the Carolinas. Again, I'm Jed Byrne, and we'll see you at the next one.